Hello there, greetings everybody. Want to welcome you all here to the Prog Monster. I don't actually think I'll need these. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show. So we're here for that, I guess it's a series, but it's a longer series. A series of episodes called Rock Bands A to Z, in which I pick a letter each week. Or actually, I think we're doing this once a month, right? Yeah, once a month. And I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite bands under that letter, or at least the 5 that I am listening to and like the most at this point in time. Sometimes it's, you're going to expect a certain band in here, and I might not be in the mood for them, so I might not include them. That's just the way it's going to be. So I've picked 5 bands here from the letter D today. Of course, we're going to have this band on there, The Doors. The Doors have 6 studio albums with Jim Morrison. I put this way here. And they also have another studio album with Jim Morrison, was released much later. Later after his death anyways, which is just basically a lot of poetry and a little bit of stuff thrown in there. I don't really care for it as much, so I don't really talk too much about it. And then they also released a couple of albums between that album and these first 6 that they called The Doors, but there was no Jim Morrison on it. And I think a couple of the members, Ray Manzarek and the guitar player, who I am drawing a blank at this moment. That always happens for some dumb reason. Something that's so common that I couldn't possibly forget it, and it just goes out of my brain. But anyways, they did a couple of albums which featured those members of the band that were surviving members of the band, but didn't include Jim Morrison, obviously, because he was passed away. And they were okay albums, but I don't really think of them as Doors albums, so I don't talk too much about them. But the rest of their albums are all great. Their first one through their 6th one, all fantastic. This is their debut album, probably the masterpiece of the group. Although the last album was really good too. And most of the albums in the middle were not bad either. So, yeah, pretty strong band. Jim Morrison is a great vocalist in my estimation. I know some people have problems with him, but I love his voice. I think he's very charismatic on stage as well. The overall abilities of the band members are good, but I wouldn't say that's their strong suit. I would say their strong suit is the music in which they produce with those skills. Not so much the individual skills themselves, but the collective, I guess, is a good way to put it. But they have a ton of absolute great stuff. And one of those few bands, too, that have a lot of great radio playing songs, but also have a lot of great deep cuts, if you want to call them, for a band with so many hits, and then they have so many deep cuts as well. Kind of, I guess, the thing that comes to mind when I think of them is the Beatles. Beatles had a ton of radio-friendly stuff, but some of the stuff they didn't have on the radio was just as friendly, and maybe even as good. So that's my first band today, The Doors. The next band up is this band, which I now have 4 of their albums. And this was a band that I didn't think I would follow overly, because I didn't. There's quite a bit of their stuff there. Their music is, to me, a little bit different than a lot of bands at that time period. I'm talking about the Dire Straits. But they do have some excellent stuff on their albums. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the best way to put this. I still have not figured this out yet. But there we are. We're going to go right there. So anyways, they have, I think 7 or 8, maybe even as many as 9 studio albums. Like the Doors, they're all good albums, but not necessarily masterpieces. They have a couple that I think qualify for that. But, yeah, just some really good stuff. Primarily driven, of course, by Mark Knopfler, who's the guitarist, vocalist of the band. Unique sound to his voice, unique sound to this band altogether. I don't really know where they quite fit in. I think of them as kind of a pop band, but they have lots of bluesy elements to their music. They do have some kind of progressive elements to their music as well. And they also have that kind of new wave-ish sound at times too. There's even that kind of almost Bruce Springsteen sounding parts to their music as well. And I like all of that. And they mix it all nice together. And this is not my particular favorite of their albums, although this is a very good one as well. I think this has arguably my favorite song on it. Yeah, The Sultans of Swing is on this one. They have some other stuff here. This is a little bit more of a bluesy album. This is their debut, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't have a name, so I'm assuming this is their debut, released back in, yeah, as usual, they don't tell you. Oh, 78, here it is, 78. So, and then they had the Brothers in Arms, which is probably my favorite album by them. Just from top to bottom is a fantastic album. Their radio-friendly ones and their deep cuts are all really good. So the Dire Straits are one of the bands I'm choosing here. Next up is a band that I don't think will surprise anybody that's on here. This is the Doobie Brothers. Now, the Doobie Brothers have some of their later stuff I'm not crazy about, really. Doesn't really do anything for me. I would say, last couple decades, haven't really cared much for their stuff. But that earlier stuff, like this album in particular, Toulouse Street here, just rocking with some really, really classic stuff. Jesus Is Just All Right, one of my favorite tunes by them. Listen to the music, another fantastic, fantastic song. They have some other stuff, China Grove. Is it China Grove? Yeah, China Grove, another great tune. Just lots of really boogie, almost like boogie sounds, some of their stuff, but just really up-tempo, great stuff. So the Doobie Brothers are one of the bands I chose today. The last, we'll go with this one next. So Dio is another one. So I like the initial Dio stuff quite a bit. The first couple of albums I like quite a bit. It kind of loses me after that. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was because of that time period. It was a combination of that for sure. The time period when I was kind of getting out of this stuff altogether, just disappointed in a lot of what bands were doing. And not that Dio was doing that, but he did some of it, but not nearly as much as others. But these first two albums are really good. The Last in Line, great track. The stuff on Holy Diver, fantastic. And he has one of the great rock vocalists in history and some great melodies, some pretty heavy stuff here and on his first album. And I think it goes forward on some of his other albums too. But I got out of the loop, so I haven't figured that out yet. So it takes me a while to learn things. Anyways, Ronnie James Dio, solo group, Dio. Fantastic. I love the album covers too on him quite a bit. I saved kind of the best band for last, and this is DeepPurple. This is Machine Head, often considered to be one of their greatest albums. Has a lot of very classic, well-known DeepPurple songs on here. Of course, none more famous than Smoke on the Water, which isn't particularly one of my favorite tunes by them. I think it's just because it's overplayed. Doesn't really resonate with me. I'm not a big fan of it, but I don't hate it. Space Truckin's a much better song from me, and Highway Star. Those are two big songs by them on this album that I like quite a bit. Pictures at Home, Ever Before, Lazy, all good tracks. But they also have a proliferate of other great albums like Burn. Burn is a fantastic album. And DeepPurple and Rock, maybe their best album. It's probably my favorite. I haven't fully made up my mind on it, but they have a couple of other albums in that time period that are really great too. Some of their later stuff in recent years has been very good. I think Ian Gillan, although he doesn't do the screaming anymore, still has that very iconic voice that to me makes DeepPurple one of the great bands in history because of his ability to sing some of the fantastic songs they sing. So for me, they tend to be, this is the thing about DeepPurple that I both like and don't like. So I like that they'll have some absolute killer tracks on any given album, but then they have some of these songs that just totally unmemorable for me, and I just can't really listen to them, or in some cases, about half of those unmemorable songs after I've listened to them long enough, they start to kind of resonate with me. So they're a really slow band to resonate with me, even though I love Ian Gillan and Richie Blackmore is probably one of my favorite rock guitarists here. The other guys in the band are really good too. I don't really have any problem with the band members they have now either. It's just for some reason there are some songs that really hit home with me right away. Other songs take a length of time for them to get through to my cranium here, and I've never been really quite sure why that is the case. It didn't exist with Zeppelin, and it didn't exist with Black Sabbath, which are the other two bands in that trilogy of hard rock, heavy metal band groups that came out early on. Anyways, that's my choice for the D's today. Deep Purple, Ronnie James Dio, the Doobie Brothers, the Dire Straits, and none other than the Doors to start this whole thing off. So those are the 5 bands I chose. There were some other bands I thought about throwing in there. Devo was one of the other ones leading there, but I decided that I have more material from these bands because I follow them more, so they should be in there, and that's what I did. Anyways, that's my choices for today's mini-series or maxi-series, whatever you want to call it, which is called Rock Bands A to Z, featuring the letter D. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please hit the like and subscribe. And if you want, you can leave any comments about any of these 5 bands in the comment section or anything I've said, or you can pick 5 of your own. A lot of people like to do that. They like to give you their 5. There's always 1 or 2. It doesn't happen every time, but at least once in a while, there'll be a band in there, and I go like, oh my God, am I brain dead? How did I forget that? Happens all the time. Anyways, I hope to see you all next month for another episode. We'll be doing the letter E next month. There'll be a lot of choices there too. So take care, have yourself a good evening, and goodbye here from the Prog Monster.